Hey, so I just watched How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, and I am joined in this review by my own little Pantherian, Gigi. Yes, there is a character that has black hair and black cat ears, so yeah, Gigi, do you want to play the part of Rem in this review? I can tickle your ears. Okay, no, that has bad connotations. um, so basically, in this episode of How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, the first one, we are very haphazardly. Oh, hi, Gigi. We are very haphazardly introduced to the plot. Like, essentially, it starts with them just narrating what's happening and who all these characters are and what's going on for like 3 minutes straight. Like, typical crappy execution. And I kind of wanted to yell at the screen, show, don't tell, the entire time, because it feels like every single character interaction in this show and every single like plot progression, it told us directly to our faces. Like, as soon as this like official character comes in, we're immediately told what her title is. We're immediately told that she's one of the most important characters in this fantasy universe. So, by the way, again, the overall story is that it's your typical like hikikomori gamer is trapped in his favorite MMORPG, and it is basically a typical gamer empowerment fantasy where he's like a super overpowered character who is so far above everyone in power level that he can just defeat anyone effortlessly. And there's these two girls that summon him to this world, and it's just very, very fan servicey, and it's very clear that this show is kind of designed to be targeted at like a gamer guy audience who the key appeal is that, say, he would like the real life guy would probably like to be the boyfriend of these hypothetical like idealized female characters. So we have one character who is an elf named Shara, who boobs. That's like her only defining character trait, aside from like she likes to eat, and for about 5 minutes of this episode is sitting in a chair with a sausage hanging halfway out of her mouth while she's eating it and like celebrating, which I'm not gonna lie, it was actually pretty, like, it was kind of cute, even though it's, like, I don't know, it's like, the sexual innuendo is just so in your face and obvious that it almost feels harmless, just because it's like, they know what they're doing. They know it's stupid. And so this show is kind of self-aware about basically how it's kind of just a stupid gamerman empowerment fantasy. Like, in the very first scene of the show, while the Demon Lord character is talking about who he is we hear the legendary Diablo, the strongest, and it turns out that it is the MC himself talking about himself, which is a very interesting way of doing it, because it shows us his character. It shows us that he is kind of an arrogant jerk about this, who highly values his skill and who sees himself kind of in this puffed up manner. So, that makes for a more interesting character. And, there were a lot of parts of this that were just blatantly stupid. Like, this show reminded me way too much of a show that I watched back in like 2010, Sukunai. And it has a lot of the same story beats, where you have two main characters, one who's like kind of a serious black-haired character who's always calling the other female character names and yelling at her, and then there's like, the second female character who's busty and stuff, and like in this case, she calls her a fat elf all the time. So I feel like and the camera work is a lot like Sukunai as well, where like before you see Shara talking, it starts at her boobs and then pans up to her face while she's talking, which kind of bothers me because, again, it's kind of implying, like, this is the thing that you should focus on first, and then, oh yeah, there's a person up here talking. It does kind of bother me. It's like, there's a lot of stuff like this. It's just your typical, like, fan servicey BS and whatever. It's like, at this point, it's just become background noise, and I ignore it mostly, but, you know, it's still kind of problematic. There was a very big sexual scene in this first episode where the MC notices that Rem, the Pantherian, kind of has some personal issues, and so he decides to interrogate her, and this interrogation involves, like, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's so not used to talking to people that he doesn't know, like, it feels like at every single moment he knows that this could be interpreted very sexually, and so he's like, I don't know how to do this so that it's not terrible and bad connotations. And it's like, on the one hand, that does make it kind of self-aware, but on the other hand, it still goes through with the exact same, like, kind of sexual scenes that you would see in any other show like this. Like, there's just scenes where the character is, like, grasping herself and screaming, ah! You know, in a very, like, orgasmic sexual manner, and the camera angles, it's very clear that you're supposed to be seeing this in a sexual manner, even though, like, the overtext is telling you, no, he doesn't know that he's doing this. And what bothers me mostly is that it feels like the characters don't really have any sort of self-awareness about what's going on. Like, it's almost like all this stuff is happening, and yet they don't really have tangible emotional reactions to it like you'd expect from someone in this situation. It's like, it just kind of happens. Like, that's sort of how the show frames everything, is it's like, all right, well, this is happening. And it doesn't really do a good job of getting into the characters' emotions and how, like, somebody actually going through this scenario would feel about it. And I do feel like that's kind of a problem. Like, I really never got pulled into this world. There were, like, mainly 2 or 3 scenes that I felt like were well animated, like this scene where he is tickling Rem's, like, cat ears. I do actually feel like the animators understand what it's like to tickle a cat's ears, so, you know, that moment pulled me in, but a lot of it, it's like, it really didn't make you feel much, you know? It didn't really pull you in and make you feel, like, good animation, you can feel the world that you're in. Like, the way that they interact with the backgrounds, the way that they interact with the other characters, it's almost like you can reach your hand through the screen and actually touch the things in that world. You can feel them. You can smell them. You know, it uses the senses well. This show definitely did not. It's like, it just felt like I was watching stuff happening, and I never really got pulled into the world. So, could have done a lot better on that, you know? Like, Hayao Miyazaki criticized animators for, like, being shut-ins that have never experienced the world, and I feel like this is a good example of this. Like, there aren't really tangible, concrete, specific details for you to latch onto, like, and it's the same way with the characters, you know? Like, the writers and the directors don't quite understand, like, I don't know, they're just not doing a good job of self-inserting into these characters and imagining what they're going to be feeling, or really presenting those feelings in a tangible manner where we, the viewing audience, can understand what they're feeling as well. So the execution of this show is just kind of bad. And, you know, like, the plot is handled very haphazardly. There's just way too much narration, way too much telling instead of showing. That is my main issue with this show so far, is that, like, all the plot points, all the character introductions, it's like the show tells you what's going on with these characters and what's happening, but it doesn't really show you. And so, again, it's just like, it's just generic. You know, the plot, it's typical, you're in an MMORPG, here's these beautiful women, imagine that you, the hypothetical male viewer, are their boyfriend, or if you don't fit in that demographic, there's really not much here for you. It's just, you have to either connect with it and basically fill in the blanks yourself. Like, oh, I have a cat back there. Hello, Pantherian Maya. Kitty. So, like, a good show will be able to fill in the blanks, so that even if you are not necessarily a fan of this and don't have your own personal experience with it, the show will make you understand it through showing you how it works, how the emotions, like, you can connect with how the characters feel about everything, even if you can't directly connect to what's happening. Where this show kind of lacks that. Either the fantasy world is meaningful to you, and the idea of going inside it is meaningful to you, and the idea of being with these beautiful girls and imagining yourself with them is something that's appealing to you, or it's not, and it's just this generic schlock that passes by for 23 minutes, doesn't really leave an emotional impact on you at all. You know, so I'm definitely in the later demographic. It's like, I was kind of detached, saying like, all right, well, I guess other people can watch this and find this scene sexy and like find this something that they'd want to be this character. And by the way, personal gripe, this is another show where the main character is so goddamn overpowerful that there is never any tension or drama. Like, come on. I like watching characters struggling. I like watching them grow. I like watching them be changed and impacted by the world that they're in. Instead of just, well, I never have to worry about anything because I am so powerful that, like, nothing's ever going to harm me. So, hurrah! I hope that you, the audience, have enjoyed imagining that you are this overpowered character who can effortlessly do things without any work whatsoever. And, yeah, not a fan. So, for me, this one is in, like, I didn't hate it. I actively hated the other, like, Battle Academy harem shows way more. Like, freaking Absolute Duo and Seiken Tsukaino World Break, which they spent so much of the show just throwing their sexuality right up in your face to the point that it is physically uncomfortable if you are not in the demographic that it's directed at. Where this, it wasn't really uncomfortable. It just felt like, yeah, this can probably be, I don't know, I felt like I was analyzing it more and not really like, ugh. So I don't think this deserves like a low or a very low. It's mostly just passable, nothing entertainment. So it's somewhere between a low and a neutral for me. I guess I'll keep it in the neutral because I would not mind watching more, and I'm not like actively, oh my god, I don't want to watch any more of this. So yeah, we'll go with a neutral. It's probably going to be in the lower half of that range. Anywho.